weather approaching, classic cold weather cases of strep throat are still popping up. Joining me with helpful information is Dr. Frank Myslik. Hey!
Hey, how's it going, Mary?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
Took time off work to be here.
I know, I'm feeling good. Okay, so fun fact, just for everybody, Frank and I know each other. So I don't know what to call you. Should I call you Frank, Dr. Myslik, Dr. Frank?
Dr. Frank. Rolls
Okay.
better off the tongue. People remember it.
I like
Yeah.
Dr. Frank. It would be weird to call you that in person,
I
but I
know.
love this energy.
Yeah.
All right, so today we are going to talk a little bit about strep throat, because this past winter, there was a huge surge in cases all across the country. So first off, what is strep throat?
Yeah, well, strep throat's a bacterial infection of the throat. So it's caused by a bacteria called Streptococcus pyogenes, or group A strep. Not important you remember that part, but just remember it's a bacterial infection. But a lot of patients that I see, so I work in emerges, both large centers and rural, they all think that most sore throats are strep throat, which in fact, a lot of sore throats actually be other things like viruses or allergies. So while small cases of them are important to kind of differentiate, because it's a bacteria, we got to treat that with antibiotics. So that's why it's kind of really important we kind of figure out the difference between them.
Totally, because a viral infection, obviously, you don't have antibiotics for. They don't really work for that.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so who is most likely to actually get strep throat? Because I feel like I haven't had it in a really long time.
Well, and there's probably a good reason for that. It's mostly affecting kids,
Okay.
Usually above the ages of like 3 to 5 to everywhere up to the teens, though adults can get it, right? So it does spread pretty easily amongst families and everything, but kids is where we really target it for sure.
Okay, and then how do you actually get it? Is it an airborne disease? Is it, or bacteria? Is it something on surfaces?
Yeah, it's mostly contact or droplets. So like coughing, sharing mugs, so you can't share this mug with me.
Don't touch my mug, Frank.
But that's usually it. It's not airborne, but because of that kind of easy interaction, it's easy to pass it through, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. So that makes sense. So again, that makes sense why families get it, because you're in really close contact.
Exactly,
Got
yeah.
it.
And amongst peers, obviously, you'll share kisses and things like that.
Yeah.
It can be very easy,
Yeah, you're and your wife, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so signs and symptoms. What are some of the signs and symptoms of strep throat in particular?
For sure. So for strep throat, usually you get this like rapid onset. Fevers, obviously a cornerstone of any sort of strep throat.
Yeah.
You also get like those swollen lymph nodes where you kind of feel there and you feel the swollen glands. But you also, like when you open the throat, you'll see like that white plaque or stuff that we call exudate in the back there. Usually those are kind of cornerstones that go along with strep throat.
Okay.
On the flip side though, when we talk about other things like viruses, there's a little bit of some overlap. You still get fevers, but you can also get things like coughing, congestion, scratchy throat. It's a little bit more gradual. But because of that, it can be difficult to tell the difference. But usually those are the main symptoms that go along with each of them.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's kind of the difference. The difference is finding if you've got a cough to do with it as well, if you've got that runny nose, that it's probably leaning more towards a cold.
Yeah, most likely. But again, it's never 100%.
Yeah.
It just kind of gives us that likelihood of where it ends up going, which to make the diagnosis, you actually sometimes need to get throat cultures.
Okay.
So there's two main things. One's called a rapid strep test. So it's almost like you take a swab and actually you get it within minutes.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like a little kid's chemistry set that we do in the back there.
Okay.
And if it's positive, that's helpful and then we can treat it. But it's not 100%. Okay. And so the gold standard we actually use is a throat culture. So where we kind of swab the back of the throat and then we send it off to a lab. It takes about a day or so to grow. But that can really help target and guide us in terms of our management.
Okay, and so when do we actually want to seek treatment for strep throat? When should we see doctors?
No, fair enough. Probably it's when you're worried is the short answer, which doesn't really help everybody because everybody can get worried. And the long answer is I usually give it a day or so. Interestingly, strep throat, the reason we want to actually treat it is because the antibiotics, while it does shorten the length by a day or two, actually a lot of strep throats just go away naturally, which is kind of asking the question, well, why do we treat it? It's to prevent complications. And I want to reiterate, they're really rare complications. So it helps reduce the spread because you're treating the bacteria. And then you're also preventing it from developing all these other conditions. And that's why we actually do want to treat it. And antibiotics are the cornerstone of that treatment.
Okay, that's awesome. Dr. Frank, always a pleasure.
Pleasure, Mary.
Very good to see you. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.